In this video we are going to learn how to use the get method, the first, the equal, the last, filter, find and parent method in Cypress. We're gonna be working on different scenarios to get and understand all these helper methods that Cypress provide us to get different Cypress locators, or actually web element locators in our website. Alright, so let's go ahead and try to start working on this beautiful video. It is gonna be a kind of long video, but it is gonna help you to understand all you need to know about this. Alright, so I'm gonna delete this code so we can code together, and let me just give you a quick resume about what we're going to do. We're gonna be using this website, which is saucedemo.com. We're gonna be using the standard credentials to log in successfully in our application. We're gonna be using standard user. We are gonna be using secret sauce as password, and we're gonna be clicking on login. It's gonna be a very simple scenario, but the idea is to understand how to get different web elements using locator methods. All right, so the first thing that I have to do is start writing my describe here. Right, it is gonna be describe locators in Cypress. Excellent. I'm gonna just call my function here. And now I can start writing my its, but just before that I'm gonna write down my before each method to go and visit my website. I'm gonna use the cy.visit method here to go ahead and visit my sauce demo website that I have. All right, now I have done this, I'm gonna start with my first it, which is gonna be named get method. All right, I think that we have seen this before in the channel, but I never explained this fully explained in detail. All right, so I'm gonna try to explain you how we can do this in Cypress, how to use the get method in simple terms. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna look and inspect for the username input. As you can see, I have here the input tag, which is the web element that I have, right? However, we can do different things. For example, we can access the element, or actually localize my element by the tag name, or for example by attributes. In this case, class is an attribute, and this is the value of that attribute, right? We have different attributes as a placeholder, type, data test, ID, name, autocorrect, and auto capitalize. You can use all of them to localize your web element, but in this case I'm gonna start using CSS selectors. All right, so I'm gonna use cyget, and using the CSS selector ID, I'm gonna try to get this ID element over here. How I do that? This is something that I have treated in another video. If you want to learn about CSS selector, you can go ahead and check that video out. But as you remember, if I use this number symbol and then the value of the attribute, I'm gonna be trying to localize the input element, which has the ID value username. All right, so right now I'm getting that particular element with this command, and I'm gonna use type to send the username over here. This username is a value and actually a variable that I have defined before in the line number 1, which has the username that I need. In this case, is a standard user, right? So there is another way to use a get, for example, and is actually using the input or the tag name, right? In this case, I want to try to look for the input tag, and we can specify different things. For example, I'm gonna try to inspect the password and look for the ID again, the ID attribute over here. So we can combine the tag name with the attribute. So I can come here and look for the input, which has the ID password. All right, as you can see in the HTML code, we have the ID with the password here as a value. So I come here and I type password, and I should be getting the password written in my website when I execute my script. Now we have another example here of get, cy.get, And well, let's imagine that I don't want to use the ID or the class. I want to use another attribute over here. For example, let's say that I want to use this attribute here, which is data test, and its value password to find this particular element. All right, but I'm gonna use the button, the login button, to give you this example. I'm gonna try to localize my login button with the data test attribute and the login button value. I'm gonna just copy this completely and I'm gonna open this brackets, and inside of these brackets I just have to paste the attribute here and the value that is gonna be assigned to it. And now, as simple as you can see this, it's another way to localize an element. So in this case, I'm clicking this element because it is a login button, right? So I just come here, and if I execute this in my test runner, you will see that this is gonna be working fine. As you can see in the test runner, I'm visiting my website, then I come and get the username by the ID, right? And I type standard user as expected, as you can see here. Then it is gonna look for the element input, which has the ID password, right? And then we can type secret sauce as expected. Let me show you. And yeah, it is password input, so we cannot see them. We cannot see it. And then we're gonna look for the element which has the attribute data test and the value login button, as you can see here. And now I click on it and I get to the new website, which is saucedemoinventory.html. Well, yeah, and that's it. I guess that's the first way that you can get web elements over here. All right. So it was a simple get. I know that this is something that we have done in the past, but now it is gonna be interesting because we're gonna look and learn the second interesting method over here, which is gonna be equal, right? First and last method. Please subscribe if you are here looking at this video. If you find this interesting, it is gonna be a lot of help for me. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and try to make you an example of these methods. So we're gonna try to localize my elements, the username, the password, and the login, just using the tag name. As you remember, if I look for the different inputs that I have in my website, we have 3 different inputs, right? And you might be wondering how we can try to get all these web elements and try to use them as an array, for example. Well, this is pretty simple. I'm gonna come here, the Visual Studio Code, and I'm gonna use the method cy.getInput. Now Cypress is gonna look for all the elements that I have in my website, and it is gonna be stored in a kind of array, right? And now we can use different methods to access that particular array. For example, I can use the method equal 0 to access the first position of the array, right? And well, for example, type the username value. All right. However, there is another method which is first. Let me see. There it is. Instead of using equal 0, I can use first, since it is gonna be the first element of the array, and that's another way that you can define or actually access the input value, the first input value in the input array. Now, since I have reached and actually accessed the first element and typed the username, now we're gonna use another method, which is cygetInput. We're gonna look for the second position using equal and the number 1, right? And typing the password. All right, it is gonna be the same scenario, just to give you different examples of how you can use these methods. All right, and then I'm gonna use do a similar thing. I'm gonna look for the inputs, and once I have all the inputs in the memory, I'm gonna look for the last one. All right, and I'm using this new method that you can see here to click the last position of my array. And as you can imagine, we have 3 inputs right now in the website. the first one is gonna be username, password, and the third one is gonna be login. The third one can be defined also as the last, so we can use this method to access the last position of the array. So if I execute this example, and as you can see here, it is working fine. Let's review the behavior of it visited the saucedemo.com website. Then we come here and look for all the inputs, and as you can see here, Cypress is looking off all the inputs that we have in the website here, right? So Cypress then is using the first method, and it is looking for the first input of the array, which is username. Then it is going to type a standard user, and there it is. Then it is going to look for all the inputs again, and using the method equals, it is going to look for the first position of the array, so it is going to be the password, right? And I am going to type secret saucer, and then we're going to be using the get input method. All right, it is going to look for all the inputs again, and then it is going to look for the last element, or actually the last position of the array, and click on it. In this case, it is going to be the login button. And well, as you can see, the website is logging, or actually, yeah, it is redirecting to the inventory HTML website, which is the result of the login. That's good, right? So we have learned how to use these methods over here. I hope that you're finding this interesting. Let's go ahead and let's understand and well, start looking at a new very interesting method. All right, it is gonna be named, let me see my script here. It is gonna be filter. All right, so I'm gonna call this filter method. It's gonna have a function, callback function here, and we're gonna be using the filter method. Let me give you a context of what is gonna be happening with this method. All right, the filter method is gonna be used to get the DOM elements that match a specific selector. All right, so let's imagine this. I want to go to my website and look, for example, the username. We're gonna be looking at all the inputs that I have in my website, but I want to make sure that I just get the input that has, for example, the type text. All right, I'm just giving you this example. Then I'm gonna look for the password, and I'm gonna try to see if it has a different type, and as you can see, it is password. All right, and if I come here and I look for the login button, you are going to see that we have this login button, which is an input too, but the type is different, and it is gonna be a submit type. So we can filter and actually, yeah, filter the different inputs depending on the type that we have. So let me just write down this example: cy.get input. All right, and I'm gonna look, and I'm gonna use actually the method filter. The method filter is gonna look for a particular type. How we can do that? Well, in the same way that we did it before. We're gonna filter depending on a particular attribute, which is using the brackets, right? And then copy the different type that I want to filter. In this case, the first type that I want to look is type text, so I'm just gonna copy the whole value here, which is the attribute and the value. And now it is gonna be filtering in the array of inputs depending on the type text. It is gonna be returning the username input, right? So I'm gonna type the value username. Cool. Then we're gonna do practically the same thing. I'm gonna copy this, and we're gonna be looking at all the inputs that we have in the website, right? But we're gonna looking for the type password, because if you remember, that's another type that we have. So I'm gonna just change this to password value, and then we're gonna look for another input, right, which was, I don't remember this type. Let me just inspect the login button, and if you remember, the type of this button was submit. That's good. So I'm just gonna change text to submit, and instead of typing, I just have to click here, right, because it is a button. It is not an input that it is receiving a kind of string. So I'm gonna just see if it is working or not in the Cypress test runner, and well, we have the filter method here working, and let's see if it is doing what I told you before. As you can see, it is visiting the saucedemo.com website, then it is looking for all the inputs, yeah, right, in the array, and we're using the method filter to get or filter the input that has this particular of attribute, type and text. Then it is gonna well, type or yeah, write the standard user value in it, and then it is gonna look for the password depending on the type password, right? It is gonna type the value in it, and then it is gonna look for the input which has the type submit. Then it is gonna click on it, and then we have the well, the resulting website that we wanted. It is redirecting as expected, and that's good, right? We have now dominated 3 different methods in Cypress. That's good. So let's go ahead and try the next one. It is gonna be name find. All right, I'm gonna come here and write down my next find method. You can use this find method to get the descendant DOM elements of a specific selector. All right, so let me give you this example here. If you come here in the website saucedemo.com, you will realize that all my inputs are inside of a form HTML element, right? This is the parent element of my inputs. However, as you can see here, we have our input username and the input password inside of another div over here, as you can see, right? Well, Cypress can use this method find, all right, to look at the different inputs, no matter if they are immediate childs or actually children of it or not. Okay, so let me give you this example because it's a very tricky to explain. I'm gonna just come here and well, look and actually use the method cy.get, and we're gonna look for the or actually the tag name form. All right, excellent. And now I'm gonna use the method find, and we're gonna look for the tag input. That's good, right? And well, as you can imagine, it is gonna look for all the inputs that we have in under form, no matter if there is a div between them. All right, it is gonna look for all the inputs, even if there is an element between them, even if it is not the direct children of it. Okay, so let's continue. Now we have in this case located all the inputs that are descendant from selector, right? And we can use another method to well access the array of elements. Again, we can use equal to, for example, type username. Now, as you can remember, that's how you can access well, an array of inputs in this case. All right, so we have the same scenario for the next example, right? I just have to come here and look for the different positions. The number 1 is gonna be for password, and number 2 for to click the login button. So I'm just gonna come here, I'm gonna look for the password, and then it is gonna be a click. Excellent. Click is a method. And if I execute my find method, you will see that it should be working fine. And let me give you an overview. Of what is happening. Sorry, I was drinking a bit of coffee. So let me just check if I'm recording, just to make sure, because sometimes it is not. Cool. I'm recording. So what I did was, I visited my website saucedemo.com, right? Then I came and get the form element, and then it is gonna look for all the decent input elements that I have in my DOM, and then as soon as I have all the inputs located, I'm gonna look for the first or the position 0 in my array of inputs. Then I come here and I type, for example, a standard user. And then I did the same procedure to get different or the other input information. I came, I look for the form, then I find the descendant input element and look for the position number 1, which was password, and type secret sauce. And then the same procedure to get the login button. I came here, look for the form, then look for the input descendant, and look for the second position of the array, which in this case is login, and then click on it, and then we had the website, the redirecting website that we wanted. Excellent. Now I have the last but not least important, because it is the parent method. It is gonna be interesting. Let me give you this example. Parent method. Excellent. Now I'm gonna call here the callback function. Excellent. And now I'm gonna show you this example. All right, it is gonna be a kind of silly example because we can do this in different way, an easier way. But I'm gonna just give you an example of how you can do this. All right, I'm gonna try to look for the form element here, the HTML form element, and then using Cypress get the parent element of it. In this case, it would be this div one, which the class might be or should be login box. You might be thinking you can access it just by the class. I know that, but we're gonna try to use the parent method of Cypress to get the parent of the form element in the HTML. all right. And then we're gonna validate if the parent, right, which in this case is div, if it has the class login box as expected. All right, so let's go ahead and try to do this. Let me just take a look at this. My script. Let me see. All right, I'm back again. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is, we'll use the same method. Just give me check. Let me check if I'm recording, and I am. I'm gonna just do this cy.get, then I'm gonna look for the form, right, because that's the thing that I wanted to do, look for the form, and then the parent one, which is this div. So I'm gonna use the method that parent, and now it is locating the div as we expect, right? So how I can make sure that the parent has the class login box, that's another thing that I have to teach you in a future video, so please subscribe and let a like. And if I use the method should and then look for have class, and the value of that class in this case was a login box, right? It is gonna try to look for that element and make sure that the parent has the class as expected. And let's take a look of the test runner. What happened? Well, we came here, I visited the website saucedemo.com, then I look for and I get the form element that I had in my website, look for the parent one, which was the div, and I assert if well, it has the login box class as expected, and it was. So well, that's basically the methods that we have reviewed in this video. We have cover get, equal, first, last method, filter, find, parent, and well, I think that I missed contains, but we can check it out in a future video. So please be aware, please subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video of Cypress. Hope that you're enjoying this series of videos, and see you in the next one. Please, thank you, and bye bye.